Hello everybody. My name is José Luis Castillo Castillo, and today we are going to see a very interesting topic about the Bauhaus. What is the Bauhaus? The Bauhaus was a school of architecture, design, crafts, and art founded in 1919 by Walter Gropius in Weimar, Germany. The name Bauhaus means it's composed of two words in German, the word Bau, which means construction, and the word house, which means house. Mm, the architecture was one of the parts where it most influenced this school, although in the beginning of of this school, the architecture subject wasn't available until next years. What are one of the most important achievements of the Bauhaus? There are three important achievements. First, the industrial and graphic design. This school was one of the pioneers in put these two design industrial and graphic in the map. Then there are new typographic style, the style sans serif, which is a style that we can see in this image that are here, that there are no straight lines at the end of the words, and the photographic expression. This school is one of the milestones of modern art that tried to unite all the arts. It was intended to merge technology with crafts, and for this reason, this school was called the School of the Future. Mm, a lot of times, this school is related with modernism, with a new way of seeing the architecture, and the Bauhaus laid the normative of basis and patterns of what we know today as industrial and graphic design. This is the school that bring these two things at the society, and which have developed until today. First, in architecture, the shapes of the buildings were geometric that were inspired by Greco-Latin and Renaissance art. The Bauhaus building in Dessau is considered Gropius' greatest work, the most emblematic work of European rationalism and an icon of the famous school. There was one idea that were fundamental in the movement of the Bauhaus, which was the form follows the function. This means the forms of every architecture, every design follows a function that is represented in the society, in the place that these arrangements are placed. And as we can see in this building, the forms of the architecture are geometric, and out of the out of the ceilings and the walls, there are no design of another pieces of art, like in other movements of the past, like in the Barroco, and Rococo, in the Baroque, Rococo, and other ways that put mm, put a lot of things in the walls to make the building more attractive, or that have another function, another aesthetic function. And in contrast with the architecture of the Bauhaus have an idea similar to minimalism, and a lot of and almost objects seems very similar between them. That is one of the features that geometry gives to the buildings. As in minimalist architecture, the buildings are characterized by their simplicity, functionality, and freedom for decoration. In addition, being inspired by Renaissance and Greco-Latin art, the shapes of the buildings are geometric, like we said before. In this way, in Bauhaus architecture, aesthetics are not important, which conveys an austere image. In addition, the buildings are of very basic colors and their lines are straight and neat, as we can see in this example of these buildings. Almost all these buildings have a similar form, which make an image of the out of the site. Very common, very similar. Almost all buildings are the same. This is one characteristic of the geometric style that gives to the buildings. The buildings unfolds in several volumes, which gives it dynamism and was adapted to the condition of its location. It is made of steel and glass, and one of the most important things or the activities that were made in the Bauhaus is that almost all the furniture, the lamps, all the things that were into in the buildings were made in the centers workshops of the same school. They made the objects and they use it in their school, like crafters, because one important idea of the Bauhaus is that they needed to add the work of the crafts with the technology and the school. So that was one important idea of bringing this school in painting. Although the Bauhaus is characterized by the use of white on large bright surfaces, there is also very colorful Bauhaus art. Combined with the color of the wall, this timeless classic create a highly original effect. Almost all the Bauhaus painting have geometric and abstract shapes like we see in this painting. There is a white surface and there are four geometric forms. And one of the one of the one of the things that mm, these form were made is that was for the purpose of an aesthetic function, because these paintings are well seen in the walls, which are made of the same color of the same color as this painting. And for example, we have another two examples of paint of Bauhaus painting. In the first image, we had another white surface and some geometric shapes, curves, and we see that there is an abstract way of see these things as the painting of near. There are a lot of geometric forms that make dynamism and are are um, are not easy to understand, because the way of the intention of the way of think of this art is very abstract, and there is a point that it is so related with the perspective and the perspective of of the the person who sees it, because there is a lot of contact with this with these geometric forms, and that was dynamism was an important thing that made a characteristic of the Bauhaus movement. Also, graphic design. This school was a pioneer in incorporating the most rigorous design into the world of printing, specifically in typography. The Bauhaus made history because it managed to mix art, industrial and interior design, typography, and architecture in a unique way. For example, in this case, the typography was made like a type of art for this school. As we can see in this image, the word Bauhaus is an example of of the typography that we saw earlier. There's typography that I didn't remember the name, but is this typography was so elemental in much used in this movement. And also, this school was a pioneer that I said it before. But um, for example, this is an example of how the typography of the Bauhaus could be seen in levels of that we are very used. We are in constant touch with in constant touch today, as we saw Netflix with this type of typography, the typography of Lego, and the WWF. And also, typography, as I mentioned before, was an important subject because it was seen like art, and the people who work in this place, they took it very seriously because they work with it in another way, and the way they work was more massive and more impact in the society of the time that was in function the school. And also it was influential at the moment of today because a lot of his important graphic and of the graphic design it is just much today. And that was because of that, because they wanted to merge the the art with the crafts. And also, if you want to um, if you want to this is a recommendation of the topic. There is a band of the 80s, 90s, and also I think the 70s that was called also Bauhaus, that was inspired by the modernism and the idea of the school. And the band have music, post-punk, new wave punk, and also something similar or related with the post-punk that was in that epoch. This is a recommendation. And also another important thing to mention is that this school only have a duration of almost mm, from 10 to 15 years because of the development of Nazism, because in this school there were a lot of movement of Judaism, and also a lot of students were Jewish. And as we know, the movement of the Nazism were very against or opposed with these ideas. So when the Nazism took control of the government and caused all the events that we know, one of the important or crucial and not crucial, but was And a bad step or a worse step in the society was the close of this school, thanks to the movement of Nazism to the hand of Adolf Hitler. And here are my references. I hope you have mm, understood the topic of today, and I hope that you have developed your acknowledgement about one of the most important schools of modernism that have another meaning, but of another meaning in the today society, but it is very influential of all the things that we can see at today. Thank you.